So we've made our prototypes. This seems swell. I'm going to scoot these down here. Oh, what does any of this mean? Why have we gone through all this real headache? It seems like we're doing an awful lot of work, Matt. I don't know how I feel about this. Well, we have another prototype. We've got another kind of prefabbed idea that we're going to go ahead and pull right on into our network. So back in our folder for our project, which I think I closed by mistake. That's all right. We can open one up. So let's go ahead and track down our large systems repo. In large systems, in modules, you'll see that we've got a wonderful folder in here waiting for us called container_draw node. Okay, I don't know what that's about, but let's see. So we're going to grab this container_draw_node. We're going to drop that in our network. All right. This looks, like another one of these prototypes that we've made. So what gives? What do we do with this? Well, on the settings page, you'll see there's a little pulse button called Reset Network, and there's a pulse button called Touch Start. So let's just try hitting Touch Start. Oh, what does that mean? We've got an error. Grumble. Okay, well, let's go back out a layer. Let's try Touch Start on the top. Oh, geez. We've got another error. What on earth could be going on? Well, let's dig in and let's go ahead and fix the problems that we've got here. I'm going to clear my text port over here. I'm going to hit that Touch Start one more time. All right, what on earth are you grumbling about over here? All right, in some extension, in some something, there was a grumble on, what is this, on line 92. Well, let's go ahead. Let's dive back on over. And I'm going to go ahead and take advantage of the fact that we can right-click and open our whole touch folder structure here in Visual Studio Code. So I like to use a text editor for a lot of the editing that we end up having to do. I'm going to scoot this over to the right-hand side so we can kind of see both worlds at the same time. And this is in our draw extension. So over here we'll see that, sure enough, modules in our container_draw. There's a draw extension for that with lots of exciting things happening. So let's scooch on down to line 92. And what is going on? Parent.fetch node. Aha! Well, we happen to have a nice little change that we're going to make sure that this behaves, hopefully, the way that we want it to. So this thing node doesn't live there. What does that mean? I don't understand. Well, let's scooch up and let's add an examine dat. Let's track down this here wobble ... Okay. I'm going to turn down the max number of levels to just 1 here. And I can see there's a channel, there's a nodes, there's a configure output, there's a devices, there's no node. What is going on here? I don't get it. Something is broken. And in fact, what's broken for us is that we have to make one change that's here in our container output. I hid a thing for us because it was going to pretend like something was broken when it wasn't yet. And so where this problem actually originates is not from our draw, but in fact from our output. So if we head back over here, this time to our container_output, to the output extension, we'll see if we scroll down a little bit here, we should have a whatchagoober, technical term. Here in our start, in our touch start method, we have a line commented out that is called self-create nodes. So let's take out that bit that's uncommented. Let's Control S, save our output extension. Okay. Let's back up 1 layer. On our container output, let's hit touch start and see what happens. Get out of town. If we look inside, we'll see, sure enough, those blueprints we made were gone. But now our container draw inside has 3 different channels. Okay, chan 1, 2, 3. These are all projectors. What happened? What is this? Well, we're now looking at the real exciting kind of magical and thrilling parts of what all of this labor and work actually means for us. So at this point, we get to take a moment to talk about what's actually happening inside of our project, inside of these extensions that are here written for us. And if we back out one more again, we should see that here at the top, there's this thing called project extension. If we look back at Visual Studio Code, excuse me, and we look at our project extension, here we'll see that there's a few things that are happening in our initialization of the extension of the class. And then in Touch Start, we can see that there is a very specific set of operations that happen in order that we want them to happen in. So we see that first we load our config, next we load our output list, then we store our IP information. We can see there's this line, container output touch start is commented out. Let's uncomment, let's make sure that's not the case. Let's swap that around so that's operational. And just remove that hashtag. So this thing calls touch start. Well, first it calls this load config. What is that? Well, we could double click on load config. We could right click on this and we could go to definition. That'll bounce us to the piece in the code where this lives. All right, so load config. This is a helper function to load the config file. Oh, so this grabs our config file and dumps it all into storage. Okay, cool. I bet load output list, if we look here, helper function to load the output list file. That does a very similar kind of thing. Okay. So far so good. That seems swell. What's this? It seems like they both use the same thing, load store JSON. Well, if we look up, load store JSON is a generalized approach for how we open a file, take out its contents, put it into storage, close the file. Right? So we're essentially first looking at a bunch of external files and putting them in storage. Then, what's this store IP information? Let's go to the definition there. Aha! Oh, it's right there. It's right close to us. Oh, so this grabs my host name and my IP address. Those are passed in as default values that are grabbed with a socket module. Okay. And then next is this touch start. Well, if we go look at the output extension, right? That's where this lives. What is touch start doing? Touch start does this thing create nodes. What does create nodes do? Let's scroll down. First create nodes resets the network. Well, it looks like first up, it like grabs a bunch of information. It's output list. The output lists. Oh, it's our config and our output. Okay, cool, great. That seems handy. And then we figure out, we're going to have to figure out how wide and how tall this is. And then we reset our network. Fun fact, resetting our network is just making sure we delete all the things in there that we don't want to see. Then we go ahead and we loop through, and almost in a replicator fashion, we create a whole bunch of nodes, and as we create each node, we call a touch start method on them. Okay, well, what could that be? Well, if we look over here in our draw node, in the draw extension, it also has a touch start method that creates nodes and sets up a bunch of pieces. So this is a cascading set of operations that first says, hey, make sure that you load the things that go in this part of the network, and then load the things that go in this part of the network. And make sure those are all set up the way that they ought to be set up. And if you're scratching your head and you're like, this seems like a whole lot more work than I should ever really have to futz with. Let's take a closer look at why that actually might not be the case and what you might gain from this process.